A few feet away, his little boy Lucas sat patiently in their hovercar, sipping nutrient juice, watching his father like he was witnessing magic. But the next morning, when 3 black cruisers descended from the crimson sky and landed in perfect formation outside Brock's weathered prefab house, that same neighbor stood frozen behind his force screen, finally understanding that sometimes the universe notices those who serve without asking for recognition. The hum of a failing circulation unit, the creak of worn composite flooring, and the gentle clink of utensils against chipped ceramic. These were the sounds that marked Brock Callahan's mornings now. A universe away from the controlled chaos of the military spacecraft bay he once commanded as Lieutenant Callahan, lead heavy-duty mechanic with the Earth Defense Force's 1st Orbital Division. Now, he lived on the quiet outskirts of New Horizon Mars colony in a prefab unit that leaked during dust storms, whose exterior coating peeled like old skin, and whose thermal regulator worked more from hope than engineering. But it was home for him and Lucas, his 5-year-old son, the only treasure salvaged from the wreckage of his former life. Brock was only 36, but loss had aged him in ways that showed in his eyes more than his face. His wife, Maria, had died 3 years prior, after an 11-month battle with lunar radiation poisoning. She'd been the kind of woman who could fix anything, not just terraforming equipment, but broken dreams and shattered confidence. She'd planned their future with the precision of an engineer. The right time for children, the right colony district, the right savings plan. Radiation poisoning doesn't respect plans. After Maria's death, Brock left active duty. Lucas needed a father more than the EDF needed another mechanic. Since then, life had become a patchwork of odd jobs, fixing farming equipment older than himself, hauling hydroponic supplies, working nights as a delivery pilot, weekends at his buddy's garage. The money was never stable, but it covered rent, food, and childcare. Every morning, Brock made breakfast for Lucas, packed his tiny backpack, kissed his forehead, and dropped him at Ms. Janarara's daycare. Every evening, no matter how exhausted, he gave Lucas a bath, read him a story, and tucked him in. Good dads show up, he reminded himself, even when they're running on empty. The Martian sun hung low, painting the landscape in shades of rust and gold as Brock steered their beat-up hover transport along. That's when Brock spotted it, a spacecraft unlike any he'd encountered, parked haphazardly on the red soil. Hull panels were open, strange blue vapor rising like a distress beacon. Beside it stood a tall figure with an elongated head, wearing a deep crimson cape that fluttered in the Martian breeze, staring silently at the exposed engine core. Brock slowed instinctively, already reaching for his tool bag. "Hang tight, buddy," he told Lucas, pulling off the road. "Are you going to help them?" the boy asked. "Looks like they need it," Brock replied, stepping into the dust. The alien didn't wave or call out, just nodded once, large eyes tracking Brock's approach with calm detachment. Most stranded travelers showed panic or frustration. This one stood as if waiting, not for rescue, but for something deeper. Examining the exposed systems, Brock muttered, "Destabilized quantum coupler, regulators out of phase 2. This is tech I've never seen." No response. "Name's Brock," he offered, fishing tools from his bag. Still nothing. Just that quiet, measuring gaze. The silence was broken by a familiar, sneering voice. "Well, look who's fixing alien ships while his own place falls apart." Mr. Dalton, Brock's neighbor, had appeared on foot, making his usual hobby of belittling Brock's efforts. "Should have spent that time patching your atmospheric seal instead, Callahan." Brock didn't flinch. He'd learned long ago that people like Dalton measured life in status and appearances, things he'd stopped chasing the day Maria died. From the hovercar, Lucas watched wide-eyed as his father worked, covered in coolant, bent over an alien engine, focused and unwavering. To the little boy, this wasn't just a repair, it was heroism. After nearly 40 minutes, the engine core hummed with soft blue light, sputtered, then settled into a steady pulse. Brock tapped the hull panel twice and stepped back. "Should get you wherever you're headed," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. Finally, the alien spoke, its voice a melodic tone that somehow translated perfectly in Brock's mind. "You didn't ask my designation." Brock shrugged. "Didn't need to. But I won't forget yours." There was a pause. Not the end of a conversation, but the beginning of something larger. The alien climbed into its ship, nodded once, and lifted off in near silence. Brock watched the dust settle as the craft disappeared into the pink Martian sky. "Dad," Lucas asked as they buckled back in, "do you think they were someone important?" Brock smiled faintly. "Didn't matter, buddy. They needed help. That's all I saw." Morning came with its usual symphony of synthetic coffee and sputtering appliances. Brock sliced dehydrated apple for Lucas's breakfast while the food synthesizer protested and the circulation unit clanked with mechanical arthritis. Sunlight filtered through radiation shields, illuminating a stack of overdue credit notices that Brock had stopped organizing weeks ago. Then came the sound. A low rumble, repulsor hums, the soft touchdown of landing gear. Brock walked to the front window and froze. 3 black cruisers sat in perfect formation along his property line, their polished surfaces gleaming like they'd descended from a higher plane of existence. Each bore interplanetary diplomatic insignia and radiated quiet authority. "Daddy!" Lucas's small voice broke the silence. "There are people outside." Brock stepped onto the porch barefoot, dish towel still over his shoulder, suddenly aware of his patchy yard and scattered toys. From the center cruiser emerged a tall, silver-haired human in plain clothes who walked with military bearing, shoulders back, chin level, gaze steady. "Mr. Callahan," the man said, producing a holographic credential. "Commander Samuel Whitaker, formerly EDF Joint Special Operations. We're here on behalf of the Interplanetary Diplomatic Corps. Someone you met yesterday would like to speak with you." From the cruiser stepped a familiar figure, the alien from the broken ship, now wearing ceremonial regalia with insignia Brock didn't recognize. The calm detachment in its eyes was still there, but now it was clearly what it had been all along: command. "Brock Callahan," the alien said, voice resonating in his mind. "I am Ambassador Zenthril, diplomatic envoy to the Galactic Confluence. Yesterday, you fixed my vessel without asking who I was." Brock's military instincts straightened his posture. "Sir, I didn't know." "Exactly," Zenthril nodded. "And that's why I'm here. May we come inside?" In his humble kitchen, Ambassador Zenthril sat across from Brock while Lucas watched from the doorway with wide eyes. The alien crouched to meet the boy's gaze and smiled. At least, Brock thought it was a smile. "You must be Lucas. Your father is a good man." Lucas blinked. "He fixes everything." After settling Lucas in his room, Brock returned to find Zenthril sliding a translucent data chip across the table. "Mr. Callahan, yesterday you performed more than a mechanical fix. You proved a principle we've been searching for. You helped a stranger without knowing their rank, purpose, or ability to repay you. That's exactly the character the Galactic Confluence needs. Brock didn't touch the chip. What kind of offer? One that could change everything for you and your son. Brock stared at the glowing chip. You're offering me a job? Brock leaned back. I don't have credentials. Haven't worked officially since leaving the EDF. Most days I'm under rovers or chasing parts across colony lines. I'm nobody special. That's where you're wrong. You're exactly the kind of being we need. Zenthral gestured to the chip. We're launching the Interspecies Technical Core, employing skilled mechanics and engineers from all worlds to rebuild the Confluence's aging infrastructure. Power nodes, atmospheric systems, emergency vessels, communication relays, the backbone of interplanetary cooperation that most beings ignore until it fails. You want me to fix broken pipes on alien worlds? I want you to help fix a broken galactic system where people like you, skilled, disciplined, committed, are left struggling because they didn't take traditional paths. That needs to change. The chip's contents displayed in holographic form. Salary 3 times his current income, housing on Mars or Earth, comprehensive health care, guaranteed placement, and an education fund for Lucas. But why me? Brock asked. Because credentials don't always mean character. Yesterday I staged my 14th vessel breakdown across 3 colony sectors. You were the first person who stopped without hesitation, questions, or requests for payment. You saw someone in trouble and helped. That tells me more than any resume. For a long moment, nothing moved except the dust motes dancing in the filtered sunlight. Brock reached for the chip, his calloused fingers closing around possibility. I thought no one noticed people like me anymore. We do, and now it's time to act on it. Brock nodded slowly. Lucas deserved more than survival mode. Maybe this wasn't a miracle. Maybe it was simply recognition for a man who'd kept doing right, long after the universe stopped watching. They shook hands, human and alien, firm and wordless, a universal gesture of trust. Bring you tools, Zenthral added at the airlock. First day is hands-on assessment. Brock cracked his first genuine smile in months. That I can do. 6 months later, Brock Callahan's life had transformed in ways he'd never imagined. The Interspecies Technical Core Training Center challenged him with evolved technology and alien systems, but muscle memory proved strong. His confidence returned as he asked questions, stayed late, and helped struggling classmates. By program's end, instructors weren't just certifying him. They were offering leadership roles. You've got something rare, his supervisor had said. Experience, humility, and peer respect. Back home, the position that followed placed Brock in charge of infrastructure assessments across the Mars-Phobos sector. He coordinated with power crews, managed life support facilities, and trained new recruits. Every time he laced his gravity boots, he remembered the day someone had looked past his worn clothes and toolbox to see potential. A year later, an invitation arrived for Brock to address the Galactic Council at Confluence Central Station. Ambassador Zenthral, now senior advisor, wanted him to speak about workforce development across the settled worlds. Standing before delegates from 12 worlds, Brock wasn't nervous. He simply told the truth. I didn't ask for a handout. I asked for a chance to keep serving. Not because of credentials, but because someone believed character still mattered. The program expanded. More worlds adopted the model. The Corps partnered with institutions and agencies across the galaxy. At its center stood Brock. No longer just a mechanic, but a mentor and symbol of what happens when the universe remembers those who serve. His days filled with site visits, training seminars, and project coordination. But Brock always made time for Lucas. They still ate dinner together, read bedtime stories, and rebuilt engines on weekends. Sometimes they'd help neighbors, even Mr. Dalton with his environmental systems. "Why help someone who was mean to you?" Lucas once asked. Brock smiled. "Because helping people isn't about who they are. It's about who we are." In his new office sat the original data chip Zenthral had given him, a reminder that opportunity doesn't always arrive as grand gestures. Sometimes it comes as 3 black cruisers, a quiet alien, and a ship that wouldn't start. Years passed. The Corps grew into a galactic institution. Brock advanced to Director of Operations, overseeing infrastructure across dozens of worlds. Lucas excelled in advanced schooling, showing aptitude for both engineering and diplomacy. The prefab house became a museum of sorts, a reminder that greatness often begins in humble places. On the anniversary of that first encounter, Brock stood on the observation deck of Confluence Central Station, watching ships from 100 worlds dock and depart in perfect harmony. Beside him, now Admiral Zenthral gazed at the same vista. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't stopped that day?" the alien asked. Brock considered this. "I think someone else would have. Maybe not immediately, but eventually. Good people don't stay hidden forever." "Perhaps, but you stopped first. That made all the difference." Through the vast viewport, a small transport approached, battered, clearly in distress. Without hesitation, Brock headed for the docking bay, toolkit in hand. "Where are you going?" Zenthral called. Brock paused at the airlock, grinning. "Someone needs help. That's still all I need to see." As he rushed to assist another stranded traveler, Brock Callahan embodied the truth he'd always known. The universe notices those who serve without asking why, and sometimes, just sometimes, it finds a way to serve them back. The story had come full circle, but the circle kept expanding, touching lives across the galaxy, one act of simple kindness at a time.